Well, that didn't take long. So, this is the video where I put my foot in my mouth. Good lord. I spent, what, a third of the previous video talking about how the K6 wasn't going to cut it for DOS stuff? Well, guess what? The K6 is doing DOS stuff. It seems like every time I plant a flag like this and say, I'm going to do this thing, something comes along and wrecks it. This time, that something was me. I killed the Pentium. I may have killed the motherboard, or I may have killed both, and I could do a bunch of pointless testing to figure out exactly what's dead, but instead, I think I'm going to eat my words. On the upside, it means I can show you this, and this.
I am back.
And even this. Oh, and don't forget this. I was doing a fair amount of testing with the Pentium this weekend, trying to get a performance baseline and get Win98 and DOS set up on it, just generally get a feel for how it was running. It was reminding me a lot of my old Pentium 100, you know, nice nostalgic feelings. And for all I remember, that machine back in the day may have used the same motherboard. I don't remember. All I know is it was inexpensive, it used PCI and ISA slots, and it used jumpers to set up the CPU. All boxes that this board ticks. Anyway, it was going nicely until the board stopped booting. It would just sit on the post screen, all of its checks completed, and say, wait. Forever. I troubleshot it for like 2 hours straight. When I finally threw in the towel and disassembled it, the Pentium itself was room temperature, despite being running almost continuously the whole time. So I moved on to the K6 and started digging into the compatibility issues I was having. I wiped its Windows install and copied over the latest drivers for the hardware I anticipated using in it. I think, by purposefully not shooting for the moon with this build, I hit a bullseye. Because I'm pretty sure I nailed all the compatibility issues I was having problems with. I had no problems once I had everything installed and configured. I'm going to share the final system specs with you. It's so embarrassing to say, but it's proof once again that more money doesn't necessarily mean a better experience. I had lofty goals for the K6, running at a full 550 MHz, full 100 MHz bus speed, low latency PC 100 SD RAM. I set it up with a Voodoo 3 and a Sound Blaster 16. I even made sure the Sound Blaster I got was one of the early models that had the genuine Yamaha chip, not a knockoff like the later models had. And you know what I got for my trouble? Crashes. Freezes. Low frame rates. No sound whatsoever in several games. And in the 3 or 4 games that really sang on the hardware, well, given about a half an hour, the Voodoo would start to get so hot that the whole system stability would become compromised. It would glitch out, or just reboot, or freeze completely. I thought for sure that the bad experience that I had back in 1999 was my fault. I couldn't afford the best components at the time, so I pined for a flawless experience that I now know doesn't actually exist. In fact, my old Voodoo Banshee and Opti sound card from back then are pretty decent budget parts, all things considered. And as derided as they were back in the day, they've since become solid recommendations for a simple, no-nonsense, well-rounded Socket 7 Retro PC, especially if you don't want to break the bank. So all that said, I feel like an idiot, but I've delayed long enough. I promised you specs, and here they are. This system's running on a PC Chips M598 motherboard. This uses a SYS530 chipset capable of 100 MHz, but I'm running it at 66 for maximum ISA compatibility. I'm using a K6-2, not a K6-2 Plus or a K6-3, at 400 MHz. I can downclock it to 200 or 133, and also disable level 1 and level 2 caches to slow it down further. My sound card is an Ensoniq Soundscape 1869. It's an ISA Sound Blaster Pro clone. And my video card is an S3 Verge 325 4 MB version. Yeah, I know. The graphics decelerator. Now keep in mind that this is a pure DOS machine. I know, I teased a bunch of Windows games running on it, but this machine's going to be mostly DOS games, pretty much exclusively. Of course, this wouldn't be one of my videos without me also saying that something's broken, and this time it's the optical drive. I've got a replacement on the way, but that's going to delay the DOS game reviews that I teased in the previous video. Sorry. Anyway, that's it. If you've stuck around this long, here's some footage of the system running some games, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.